to start today with a concept that it really stopped me in my tracks when I first saw it in our research. It's just a little graphic from one of the articles, but the caption was, "Your voice is the one you hear most."
It sounds so incredibly obvious when you say it like that, doesn't it?
Right.
But we almost never stop to, audit the quality of that broadcast.
Exactly. It's like we're listening to this 24-hour radio station that's dedicated entirely to, well, to us. And looking at the data we have today, for a lot of people, that programming is just, it's terrible.
Oh.
It's not a hype track, it's a roast.
A roast where you're the only target and there's no 2-drink minimum to soften the blow.
Not at all. And that brings us to this incredible analogy from one of the sources. I think this really frames what we're talking about so well.
Okay.
Imagine you have a coworker. Let's call him Gary. And imagine Gary follows you around all day, just hovering over your shoulder. Every time you send an email, Gary's there, whispering, "Ooh, that's a stupid typo." Or you walk into a meeting and Gary goes, "Nobody here actually likes you. Look, they're already bored."
If Gary were a real person in an office, he wouldn't just be annoying.
Annoying. He'd be fired immediately.
Oh, instantly.
He'd be fired for gross misconduct. He would probably be sued for harassment.
Precisely. And yet, because this voice is internal, because it's our, inner roommate, we don't just tolerate it. We often believe it's telling us the absolute objective truth.
So that is our mission for this deep dive. And I want to be really clear. We are not just going to talk about thinking positive. That's not it.
No, this is deeper than that.
I want to unpack the actual mechanics of this inner critic. We need to understand why it's physically dangerous to our health. And the science there is, frankly, a little scary. And then we're going to look at the toolkit. We have some evidence-based strategies to turn that critic into, I don't know, a coach.
Or at the very least, a polite roommate who pays rent on time and stays quiet.
I would take that. So looking at our stack, we've got psychological research on cognitive distortions, some really fascinating insights from Dr. Kristen Neff on self-compassion, and then some specific, really eye-opening findings on ADHD and something called rejection sensitivity dysphoria.
And that ADHD connection is going to be so illuminating, even for listeners who don't have ADHD.
Why is that?
Because it highlights the mechanism of negative self-talk in, high definition. It shows you the machinery under the hood.
Okay, let's unpack the damage first. Because I think a lot of us see this negative inner voice as just a personality quirk. I'm just hard on myself. It keeps me sharp.
Right, like it's a feature, not a bug.
But the research suggests it's way, way more serious than that.
It is. If we look at the source from SheHDD, they really lay out the physiology of this. Negative self-talk isn't just a mood killer. It is a legitimate health hazard.
How so?
When you engage in that harsh internal monologue, you aren't just thinking. You are actively triggering the brain's fear and anxiety centers, specifically the amygdala.
So you're setting off a stress response just by thinking. You don't need it like a tiger in the room.
Exactly. Your body doesn't really know the difference between a tiger chasing you and your inner voice telling you you're a total failure. You're spiking your cortisol. You're raising your blood pressure.
Wow.
And the research links this sustained stress response to an increased risk of heart disease, stroke, even diabetes.
That is wild. It's like we're slowly poisoning ourselves from the inside. But I have to ask the obvious question then. If evolution is so smart, why are we wired this way? Why would our brains develop a mechanism that actually hurts us?
That is the crucial question, and it really comes down to what psychologists call the negativity bias.
Okay.
Your brain is designed first and foremost to keep you alive, not to make you happy. It prioritizes detecting threats above everything else. Thousands of years ago, the threat was a predator or, eating the wrong berry.
Right. Missing a threat meant death.
Exactly. But today, the threat is social rejection or an awkward email or failing at a project. So your brain highlights those mistakes to try and save you from being kicked out of the tribe. But it overcorrects. It treats a typo like a tiger.
It's running old software in a new world.
Perfectly put. And if you look at the mental impact, the very well mind source draws a direct line between all that rumination, that loop of negative thoughts and clinical depression, anxiety disorders, OCD, even PTSD.
One of the sources used this phrase that I just loved. They called negative self-talk a negative mood hoover on our shoulders every hour of every day.
A mood hoover. I like that.
Just sucking up all the self-esteem. And one text source made a great point about how this isolates us. It drains our confidence so much we stop taking opportunities.
Yeah, you stop trying.
Because the mood hoover has already told you you're just going to fail anyway.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe you lack the ability to do something, you won't even try, which then reinforces the belief that you can't do it. You lose all the data points that would prove you can succeed.
So, okay, we know it hurts, it's bad for our hearts, it's bad for our heads, but how does it actually work?
Yeah.
Because for me, it feels automatic. I don't decide to think this way, it just kind of happens.
It often is automatic, but it does follow patterns. And the Calm blog breaks this down into a framework called the 3 C's. It's a really good way to spot the behavior as it's happening.
Okay, lay them on me, the 3 C's.
So first, you have comparing. This is looking at someone else's life and deciding yours is lacking something. And in the age of social media, I mean, this is weaponized.
Oh, absolutely.
You're comparing your own behind-the-scenes footage, all the mess and the struggle, to everyone else's highlight reel.
Guilty. That's the Instagram envy trap. You see this one curated photo of a vacation and you assume their whole life is perfect while you're sitting there in sweatpants eating leftovers.
Precisely. You're comparing apples to, I don't know, polished, photoshopped oranges. The second C is criticizing. This is that harsh, unfair judgment of your own self-worth. It's not constructive, it's character assassination. It's the difference between saying, I made a mistake and I am a mistake.
That's such a crucial distinction. I am a mistake feels like an identity. It feels permanent. And the third C.
Complaining.
Yeah.
But specifically, it's focusing only on the negatives of a situation without taking any steps to improve it. It's a passive kind of negativity. It keeps you stuck.
I think we all do these.
Yeah.
But I do want to pivot to that ADHD connection we mentioned, because the sources from CHED and that personal tech source really dive in here. And I'll be honest, at first I thought, is this relevant for everyone?
It's a valid question. And the reason is that ADHD gives us this high contrast model of how the whole system works.
How so?
Well, ADHD is fundamentally a disorder of executive function. Think of executive function as the air traffic controller for your brain. It handles planning, organizing, regulating your emotions.
And when the air traffic controller is asleep at the wheel?
Crashes happen. You forget your keys, miss a deadline, you say the wrong thing. So just by sheer volume, someone with ADHD has more material for their inner critic to work with. But it's not just the frequency of the mistakes, it's the emotional reaction to them.
And this is where that term rejection sensitivity dysphoria comes in, right? RSD.
Yes, RSD is very common with ADHD. It describes an intense, almost physical pain that comes with perceived rejection or failure. And perceived is the key word there.
So a weird look from your boss or a friend not texting back right away, it feels like a catastrophe.
It feels like a physical wound. One source described it as unbearable. And what happens is this cycle. A mistake happens, shame spikes almost instantly to protect you from that pain, and then the negative self-talk floods in as a defense.
It's like the brain is trying to beat everyone else to the punch. If I criticize myself first and hardest, then nobody else can hurt me.
Precisely. It's a very twisted form of self-protection. And here's the key part. Even if you don't have ADHD, that mechanism is universal. We all have that cycle of mistake, shame, negative talk. The ADHD example just shows it to us in bold. It's the loud version so we can spot it in ourselves.
So to interrupt it, we have to be able to identify what the heck we're actually saying to ourselves.
Right.
We need to see the menu of negative thoughts.
Right. In psychology, they're called cognitive distortions. They're basically just lies our brain tells us.
The Calm and Very Well sources gave us a kind of cheat sheet of these. I wanted to run through them because I think listeners are going to recognize themselves in at least a few. I know I did.
Let's do it. What's first?
Catastrophizing. This is when you turn a small blunder into a career-ending disaster. The example was you make a typo in an email and your brain goes, that's it, I'm unprofessional, I'm getting fired, I'll lose the house.
Classic. That's taking a solvable problem and turning it into a complete tragedy. It skips from A straight to Z. It's your brain trying to prepare you for the worst case, but it's totally irrational.
Okay, next is personalizing. This is taking the fall for things that are not your fault, like a group project fails, and you decide, this is entirely on me.
Yeah, that's a heavy burden. It ignores all the other factors, other people, timing, resources. It assumes you're the center of the universe, but only for the bad stuff.
Then there's filtering. This one is sneaky. It's like wearing sunglasses that only let you see the bad stuff.
Right. You could get 10 compliments and 1 criticism, and what do you focus on?
The one criticism. For days.
It distorts reality to fit the negative story you're already telling yourself.
And here's what I think is so common now. Mind reading. She didn't text back right away. She must be furious with me.
We just project our own insecurities into other people's silence. Usually they're just busy or their phone died, but our brain fills that silence with our own worst fears.
Then we have polarizing. This is that all or nothing black and white thinking. If I'm not perfect, I'm a total flop. If I didn't get an A+, I failed.
That is the enemy of growth. It leaves no room for good enough or learning. It just paralyzes you because perfection is impossible.
2 more. Should statements. I should be better at this by now. I should go to the gym more.
Guilt city, as one of the sources called it. When you say should, you're just creating this rigid rule book for yourself that you can never actually follow. It just creates resistance, not motivation.
And finally, emotional reasoning. This one's dangerous because it feels so true. It's believing that because you feel miserable, your situation is hopeless. I feel like a loser, therefore I am a loser.
And this is where we have to remember. Feelings are real, but they are not facts. Just because you feel a certain way doesn't mean it reflects objective reality. Your emotional thermostat might just be broken.
Okay, so we've diagnosed the problem. We know the physiology, the mechanics, the specific flavors of poison we're drinking. Now, let's get to the good stuff. How do we fix it? What's in the toolkit?
All right, we've got 4 main strategies from the sources, and the first one is actually kind of fun. It's called separation and naming.
This is the Debbie Downer technique, right?
It is. The Very Well Mind source suggests giving your inner critic a goofy nickname. Debbie Downer from the SNL sketch is a great one. The whole idea is to see the critic as an external force, something outside of you.
So when that voice says you're going to bomb this presentation, you don't just absorb it. You can say, okay, thanks for sharing, Debbie, but I'm busy right now.
Exactly. It creates what psychologists call psychological distance. It lets you disagree with the voice rather than just accepting it as the truth. It makes the voice less threatening and, honestly, a little ridiculous. It takes its power away.
I love that. And strategy number 2 takes that a step further. It's the courtroom or cognitive restructuring.
This is about putting the thought on trial. You have to be its defense attorney. You ask it, where is the evidence for this thought? Is this based on fact or is it just a feeling?
This reminds me of that image source we started with, the one with the flowers. Could you describe that again?
Yes, so it showed these jars with flowers. In the first one, the thought is, I'm the worst. And the flower is wilted and dying. It's in toxic water.
Right.
In the second scenario, the phrasing changes just slightly to, I'm having a thought that I'm the worst. It's just an observation. And in that jar, the flower is healthy in clear water.
That shift is so subtle, but it's huge. I am having a thought that.
It acknowledges the thought is there without accepting its premise. It reinforces the key takeaway from all of this. Thoughts are not facts. Just because you think it, that doesn't make it true. You're observing the traffic. You're not stepping out in front of the car.
Okay, let's move to strategy 3. This one comes from Dr. Kristen Neff, and it's about self-compassion. Now, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
I could just hear some listeners thinking, oh, self-compassion, that sounds soft. I need to be tough on myself to succeed. If I'm nice to myself, I'll never get off the couch.
That is the single biggest myth we need to bust today. Dr. Neff is so clear on this. Self-compassion is not about letting yourself off the hook. It's not about being lazy. It is simply treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer to a friend who is struggling.
The source made this really interesting distinction between high achievers and perfectionists. I always kind of thought they were the same thing.
A lot of people do. They think they need that harsh inner critic to whip them into shape. But the research actually shows that high achievers do better than perfectionists because they aren't paralyzed by the stress of trying to be perfect.
So the inner critic isn't actually making you more productive.
No, it's usually making you more anxious and less willing to take risks. Self-compassion lets you be objective. You can say, okay, I messed up that report. Why? Well, I was exhausted. Okay, I'll go to bed earlier tonight. That's productive. I messed up the report because I'm an idiot. Gives you nowhere to go. It's a dead end.
That leads perfectly into strategy 4, which is for when that spiral is happening right now. When you're in the heat of it and you can't access that logical courtroom part of your brain, this is the physical interruption.
Right. Sometimes you can't reason your way out of a loop. Your prefrontal cortex is basically offline. You have to physically break the circuit. The sources suggest thought-stopping techniques.
Like the old rubber band on the wrist trick.
Yes, gently snapping a rubber band on your wrist when you feel the loop starting. Or even just visualizing a giant red stop sign. It sounds primitive, but it jars your brain out of that rut. It forces a reset.
The Very Well source also mentioned shifting the intensity of the language you use.
Right. This is for when you can't go fully positive. If your brain is screaming, I can't stand this, you can try to shift it just a little to, this is challenging, I hate this, becomes, I don't prefer this.
It just turns the volume down, takes the emotional sting out of it.
Exactly. You're de-escalating your own internal conflict. You're negotiating a peace treaty with your own mind.
So, to recap the toolkit, we've got a roommate named Debbie we can tell to be quiet. We have a courtroom where we demand evidence. We have self-compassion to keep us objective. And we have physical tricks to snap us out of a spiral.
It's a powerful set of tools. But like any tools, they only work if you actually pick them up and use them.
That's the truth. And I want to circle back to the sentiment in that text source for our outro. It said that to find contentment, we have to become our own greatest cheerleaders. We have to win ourselves over.
It's true. We spend so much energy trying to win over our bosses, our partners, our friends. But the relationship you have with yourself is the only one that is guaranteed to last your entire life. From birth until death, you are stuck with you.
That is a mic drop moment right there.
Yeah.
So we covered the physical dangers, the cortisol, the stress. We covered the disguises the critic wears like catastrophizing and mind reading. And we've got the tools to start dismantling it.
And the goal isn't to never have another negative thought. I mean, that's impossible. The goal is to change your relationship with those thoughts, to see them as noise, not news.
I love that. Noise, not news. Before we go, I want to leave our listeners with one final provocative thought.
Yeah.
It's based on that friend test we mentioned, but I want to make it really specific.
Okay, what's the challenge?
The next time you make a mistake, and you will, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, I want you to freeze the moment you start scolding yourself. Take the exact words you're thinking, you idiot, you always mess this up, and I want you to imagine saying them out loud to the person you love most in this world. Your child, your partner, your best friend.
That's a painful thing to visualize.
It is. But the question is, if you would never, ever tolerate speaking to them that way, and you wouldn't tolerate a stranger speaking to them that way, why are you accepting it from yourself?
Why indeed?
Something to think about. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.